A tough blow for Canada. What is the significance of this loss tonight?
I don't know if I would characterize it as a learning moment, KJ. I would characterize this as a massive disappointment because this team talked up this tournament themselves. I mean, we said pregame that getting to the final was the bare minimum because that's what they told us. This tournament started just over 10 days ago at BC Place in Vancouver with a 6-0 win against Honduras. You and I were talking about how exceptional Canada was that night. If you chart those two teams, Canada went like this, Honduras went like that.
Yeah.
What went wrong?
Wow, what went wrong? Well, first of all, it's an enormous disappointment for the country. We're not at a stage, Matthew, in 2025 where we can say, oh, well, we got to penalties, look at the draw, could have gone either way. No, it couldn't have gone either way. It should have been done. They should have won the match. What went wrong? You know, first of all, going down to 10 men, the lack of discipline is very, very difficult to get past that. It's the first red card, I think, in 40 matches for Canada, so they've done well in that regard. Prior to this, it just happened to go wrong at the big occasion. You know, I thought the game changed when Tajon Buchanan went off. And he was clearly hurt at half-time, went out there and got 10 minutes. And I thought for sure that when he would go off, another midfielder would come on. I was shocked, absolutely shocked that Jesse Marsch played the entire second half with 3 forwards down 10 to 10 men. Now, I know why Jesse Marsch would want to do that. People back home would know that too. They know he's a front foot manager. He wants to press. He wants to be on the front foot. But in a game where they lost territory and in a game where some of their big stars and their big leaders, Alistair Johnston, Jonathan David, were losing their legs, it needed more midfield control. And in the end, I think that and the substitution pattern was a huge, huge lesson they need to learn.
In this story of this Canadian men's national team, as we proceed, and now this is the last tournament, the real competitive atmosphere they're going to get before the World Cup, I can definitively say the honeymoon is over with this team, especially with Jesse Marsch. Everything that happens going forward, starting with this game, is going to be under a microscope. And to peel back the curtain just a little bit, they were very confident, the Canadian men's team, and many have been telling me that irrespective of the result in this tournament, they felt confident about what was going on in the locker room. Remember, they had several changes. Moise Labido is not here. Alfonso Davies is not here. Stefan Eustáquio wasn't going to come anyways in the knockout rounds. But we're at a point now where the Canadian public would have watched this. We talked about it pregame. A whole swath of the Canadian public would have watched this after what happened in Copa America and might now say, why should we invest in this team? It might be difficult. It might be harsh. But as we look at the bigger picture, this is just the plain facts. Canada should have beaten Guatemala today, and they didn't.
Look, it's a gigantic missed opportunity, an enormous disappointment. At the end of the day, take nothing away from Guatemala. I thought they were fantastic on the night. They had the tactics right. They were direct. You know, Jesse Marsch told me in the press conference yesterday, we're going to go out there and we're going to fly. Guatemala was the team that was flying, by the way, in the second half. They got as I said, from set pieces, they went direct right away. They pushed Canada physically. And in a tournament where we were asking our best player and captain in the second half to run in his 67th game in a year playing right wing, he ran and he ran and he ran until he couldn't run anymore, and he was chopped down and wasn't there for the penalty shootout either. So that was really difficult for me to watch, that he wasn't there when they needed him, and that is not on him whatsoever. But that man is burned out, and sometimes the management of him, I think need to be looked at. Was he really needing to play in the third game in the group stages? It was an exhausting tournament for him. He's a player that we need to protect. He's a Canadian treasure. And so I think sometimes those moments need to be reflected. Look, this is going to be a team and a manager that will be defined in their era of next year. We know that, Matthew. But this right now, in 2025, again, winning is hard and opportunities are slim. Enormous missed opportunity.
Yeah, the dialogue now changes, Camilla, because really it was over a year ago, you and I were speaking off camera about how monumental the moment was after they beat Venezuela in the quarterfinals. We're a 180-degree difference today, Camilla.